Okay, today we're going to work on our guided practice for the date function in Excel. And in this exercise, you're going to follow along with me and use the date function. Upon completion of this activity, you will save and submit, upload to Canvas. The first thing you're going to do is open up your date function guided practice spreadsheet that was sent to you by Canvas. You should have it in there. And the next thing you're going to do is pretty simple. Just use the today date function and insert the current date in cell B1. And this is B1 right here. And as usual, first thing we should always do when putting in a formula, we use our equal sign. And you start typing today, and we're going to choose that one. Sorry, equal today. Okay. And then we have to use our closed parentheses to finish it up. Tab over. Now you see we have the number sign here. It's because there's not enough space for that to fit. So we just go ahead and open up the cell a little bit. That's all it's telling us. You open the cell and you're good. The next thing we're going to do is calculate the 30-day payment date. Enter a formula in cell F3. Let's locate F3, which is here. And we're going to add 30 to the value in cell D3. Okay? So pay attention to those. And then we're going to copy the formula. So the first thing it tells us to do, and of course, our formula, we start with an equal sign. We're going to do in we're going to do D3 because the instruction says to calculate a 30-day payment date. Okay? Enter a formula in F3, and then we're going to add 30 to that. Okay? In cell D3. So D3, and we can type it in or you can just click on it, right? We know that we can do it both ways. We're going to add 30 to that. And you tab over, and then you get your date right there. Then the second part of that instruction tells us to copy the formula. And how do we do that? By just filling it in. Okay? It gives us a range of dates from every 30 days, it looks like going out 9, 10, 8, 10, 9, 8, and 2022. It gives us a range of payment dates. Okay? So it says that you should verify the accuracy of your formula by spot checking a few of the values in the column. Each entry should be 30 days later than the date of service. So here, this means we have date of service here is August 23rd. 30 days later would be September 22nd. And even if we jump down here, 9/25, which is September, then the payment day is 30 days later, which would be October, and so on and so forth for all of these. Okay? So the next thing, that was step 4 there. The next step we're going to go through is step 5. We're going to determine the total outstanding balance in column H by subtracting the payment received from the amount of the bill. Okay, so let's find H. This is H right here. And in H, it says that we should determine the outstanding balance. So we have to subtract the payment received, which would be this, right? So the first thing we do is put our not formula, I'm sorry, our equal sign when we're going to start a formula. We do our equal sign, and we are going to use G3, okay? And we're going to do subtraction by E3, which is the bill amount, okay? Then we're going to enter that, and we get an amount there, right? The next thing that we're going to do is write a formula in column I. Column I, we're going to go over here to column I. And that's going to indicate the 90 days past due date, or it's going to be 90 days past due basically, which is 60 days after the value in column F. So in column F, we have it being 30 days past due, right? So over here, we're going to calculate an additional 60 days, which will make 90 days. I hope I explained that for you to understand. It's 30 days past due here, right? And then we want it to be 90 days. So we need to add 60 more days. 60 more days. Okay? So here in this field, we're going to start by entering our equal sign. So our formula here is, of course, the equal sign. And then we do F3. Again, you guys can type it or you can click on it. Oops, I did F5. F3 plus 60. Okay? And that's because it told us that it wanted 60 days after the value in column F. Okay? Then it says that we should copy the formula to the remaining cells in columns H and I. So all we're going to do is fill it in. This is I, copy. This one's H, copy. So we have our numbers in there in all of those fields. Then in 8, it says calculate the number of days that have elapsed since the last payment was received. So that's the bill due day, okay? And by using the days 360 function. So how do we do that? First of all, we're going to equal, as usual, okay? Then we have to type that actual function, which is days 360. Days 360. And you started typing and it pops up right here. Okay, there it is, days 360. And if you use the tab button, it'll go ahead and pull that in for you. And so now we have to figure out, it says calculate the number of days that passed, elapsed means passed, since the last payment was received. So if we look at the last payment date, which is F3, so we're going to do that one. That was the last payment because the clue says that we're going to find out the number of days since that payment was received. So we're counting from the due day, which was 9/22 for that one. Okay. And we're going to put a comma in there to separate it. And we know that B here in B1, which is our date right here. Okay. And I click on it, B1. Okay, so here we go. We're going through it. It says calculate the number of days that has passed or elapsed since the last payment was received. And we put that payment date in there already, 9/22. And that's the bill due day by using the 360 function. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and close it up. But we can't leave it like this, because if we leave it like this and we copy the formula, that's what we'll get. It cannot calculate this for us because we're not giving it clear instructions. We are telling it here that we want to calculate the F3 by and B1, but we need to make this an absolute value, okay? An absolute value. And how we will do this is by separating it. We're going to go up here and we have to use the $ to separate these. So we use commas to separate, and then we also use the $ to separate. So we need to separate B1. We need to separate B1 because the dates in here, we don't want to use that same date. We want the dates to change. So we're going to use, in front here, we're going to put a $, okay? And then we're going to separate it by using a comma. And we're going to also put a $ in front of the 1. Okay? And now we're going to tab over. Okay, so I got an error there. And let me see what I did wrong. So, okay, so the value in here, I did have an error. I did have an error. So the 360, we went ahead and we did the F3, and we put the dollar sign in before the B and also before the 1. Okay, so we want to make that an absolute value. And the reason we want to do that is so that when we copy the formula, the cell address does not change with the other values. Okay, we want the dates to remain today's date. We want the date to remain today's date. Okay, so once that is done, all you need to do now is pull the fill handle, and it's going to go ahead and make that change for you. Okay, so as you can see here, it says F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, F8, F9, and so on. And if we have more, it'll keep going. Okay, and we got a couple more fields here. It says that we should determine which cell reference in the formula above must not change, and that's what we just did, right? Format it as an absolute reference before copying the formula to the remaining cells in the column, and that is exactly what we just did. Now it says determine the average number of days for column J. So here we already have average typed in here, and we're going to go over the column J, okay? And we are going to put a formula in here that's going to help us to figure out exactly what the average amount is. So, as usual, we're going to start by typing the equal sign. So once we put our equal in there, we're going to find the range of cells that we want to use. In this case would be J3 all the way to J10. Okay, so we'll go back up here, J3, and we can do through J10. Okay, and it gives me an error. Gives me an error because I did not put the parentheses in there. Okay, so that's important, guys. We need to make sure we add that. Okay, we put our parentheses in there. And if we don't do that, it's going to always give us an error. It's going to give us an error. So I have it again. Let's see what I didn't do there. Oh, I see it. So we have our equal sign here because we always start with, when we put in when we start putting in our formulas, we always use the equal sign. There are a couple ways that we can do this, but this is the way that I like to do it. You can type average in here because that's what we're looking for, right? You can choose, it's there, and it opens the parentheses for us. And then we want to click on J3, because we're going to determine the average number of days for this entire column, okay? And then we can drag it down here and fill it. And then we want to put our close parentheses. We can't forget to do that. All right, and then I get an error. Okay, you type 1. Okay, so here it's telling me that I made a mistake. I did something extra and I didn't even see that. I had a dash in there. So that's our answer. And this is the formula up here. Equal average. We have to have our open parentheses, J3, all the way to J10. And then we close parentheses. Okay? And our average is 3138. So that's determining the average number of days. 31 days, 31.338 days, or 31 and a quarter days. Okay? 31.3 to be average, or 31.4 actually. But 31 days, 31 days. Okay, so now you're going to save this and you are going to submit it in Canvas. And that is the end of your guided practice.